Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and exciting things are happening for Shadow Priests. And let's be honest, we could say finally happening for them because Shadow Priests have been holding out for something new and exciting. Yes, Shadow Priests are getting a rework, going into Shadowlands, and finally, in the beta, we're gonna be seeing something come of it. So far, Shadow Priests haven't gotten too many updates. There have been some tweaks to talents, and Juvenile Plague returned, which I'd say it's a nice return. However, the spec has core issues where by itself it just simply doesn't function or doesn't feel fun to play, and usually relies on externals like essences and artifact weapons and borrowed powers in order to stay relevant. And that seems to continue the trend into Shadowlands until this update, which hopefully will fix a lot of things. I want to go over the blue post, and probably in the next video we'll be taking a look at what Shadow Priests are actually going to look like once the servers are back up with some new updates. We start the blue post off with greetings. We've heard your feedback on Shadow Priest, so let's just skip to the fun parts. Void Form. Along with Insanity, Void Form was introduced in Legion as a central component of Shadow Priest's design that explored the fantasy of tapping into dark, mind-twisting void magic for temporary power. This design has not been a clear winner for several players, as we have often received feedback that people do not enjoy fighting the resource decay in order to inflict reasonable damage. On the other hand, we also hear from people who enjoy Void Form but feel it is not transformative enough. Over time, the design has proved problematic and Void Form uptime has dominated the spec. Now, any talents, items, legendaries, etc. that do not feed into Void Form are considered undesirable. We want time in Void Form to feel more impactful as a result. We are limiting the time you can undergo the transformation by applying a cooldown. By default, the ability will no longer have a decaying resource mechanic, but that gameplay will be more appropriately placed with the redesigned talent for Legacy of the Void, so the players can have the option to choose the Legacy field of Void Form. I feel like the name is pretty apt. First thing on the table, we have Juvenile Plague, and feedback suggested the duration of Juvenile Plague was too long. While we reduced the duration from its historic 21 seconds down to 12, we agreed it still feels too long, and we're reducing it further to 6 seconds. Also, fixing a bug that prevented Devouring Plague from scaling with haste and critical strike, and we increased its damage. General gameplay, we're introducing a new passive called Dark Thoughts that adds baseline proc in the rotation, which we feel spices up the general rotation. We want damage over time effects to matter to Shadow Priest to make Dark Thoughts and other mechanics interact with core theme. We have no idea what Dark Thoughts is, but hopefully we'll know as we go through this. Talents. We've gone through a number of talents and made adjustments in an effort to make choices a bit more competitive in a variety of situations. Unfurling Darkness and Psychic Link support Shadow Priest multi-dot in strength, while Damnation and Surrender into Madness provide tools for Shadow Priest to quickly burst targets down when the encounter demands it. Lastly, we want to spotlight new talents, Searing Nightmare. Searing Nightmare can assist Shadow Priest in situations like M+, where high sustained AoE can be useful. Baseline changes, Void Eruption cast time is reduced by 40%. Mind Blast Rank 2 reduces cooldown of Mind Blast by 7.5 seconds, was 7 seconds. This one is actually kind of big because priests have asked for Blizzard to do something with a Mind Blast cooldown reduction because where it was at, it didn't fit into your proper rotation of, let's say, maintaining Insanity, while in Void Form, with Mind Blast just being slightly off. So this might not seem like a big thing, but apparently for Shadow Priest this is huge in terms of the gameplay. Shadow Ward Death no longer generates sanity. Shadow apparitions have been redesigned. When you use Mind Blast, Devouring Plague, or Void Bolt, you also create a shadowy version of yourself that floats towards all targets afflicted by a vampiric touch, dealing shadow damage. Critical strikes will cause 2 shadow apparitions to be created. Wow, so more control with shadow apparitions instead of having them to be off of dot crits, which could be interesting with a bit more control. Void Form now has a 90-second cooldown and increases damage by 20%, lasts for 15 seconds. Void Form no longer reduces the cooldown of Mind Blast, but now refreshes the cooldown of Mind Blast, and you gain 2 charges while inside of Void Form. Okay, makes it interesting. You no longer gain haste every 0.5 seconds while in Void Form. Devouring Plague, duration reduced to 6 seconds, damage increased by 50%. Juvenile Plague will now properly critical strike and is now a level 20 spell. New spell, Dark Thoughts, passive. That's the one we were talking about. What is this passive? For each of your damage over time effects on the target, your Mind Flare and Mind Seer have a 2% chance to instantly add a charge of Mind Blast, causing them to be instantly cast, allowing them to be cast while channeling Mind Flare or Mind Seer within 6 seconds. Dark Thoughts can stack up to 5 times for situations where Shadow Priest will proc many in short time. Very, very interesting choice design so far. So it gives player a little bit more control, takes out some RNG of the spec, makes dots important with now Dark Thoughts playing off of your dot effects, and Juvenile Plague becoming, I guess, more incorporated as a dot ability that you might want to maintain. We still don't know what the Sanity Bar is going to be, if you will even have a Sanity Bar. It seems that Sanity Bar will stay and you'll still use Sanity on Juvenile Plague or Void Bolt, but inside of Void form on a 1.5 minute cooldown that lasts 15 seconds, so it makes it more of a CD. But I'm still wondering exactly how will this work, since they said that you will no longer have the whole sanity drain while inside of your Void form. This is definitely something we need to test. There's a lot of changes here. A lot of them I think sound good on paper, however they do need to be tested in game. Let's take a look at the talents, because Blizzard also does have talents linked down below, or what they want to do with talents for Shadow Priest. In the level 15 tier, or tier 15, Shadow Insight has been removed. Isn't that the one where Mind Blast can be insta? I guess that's getting baked into the spec in a way, doesn't it? Shadow Ward Void has been removed, since you do get to Mind Blast while inside of Void form now as a baseline. Death and Madness is now available in this tier. New talent of Unfurling Darkness. After casting VT on a target, your next VT is insta-cast and deals 150% Shadow Priest damage? SP damage? Instantly. This effect can only occur once every 15 seconds. Oh, okay, a little bit extra burst to this ability. I like it. Tier 40, new talent, Psychic Link. Mind Blast deals 60% of its damage to all targets afflicted by VT on 40 yards. Notice how it's on VT, not Shadow Word Pain, so that makes it that much harder for you to get all those dots up and running. Level 45 tier, Lingering Sanity has been removed. Dark Void has been removed. New talents here, Nightmare instantly deals shadow damage to all enemies around the target and afflict them with Shadow Word Pain. If the enemy is already afflicted by Shadow Word Pain, the enemy deals double the damage, only usable while channeling Mind Sphere. Oh, interesting. That link to Mind Sphere is going to be interesting combo. Maybe it'll be fine. Maybe Blizzard will remove that combo at a later time, but it does seem more of a bursty AoE talent for you to use with insta-cast capability as long as you channel, similar to that of a monk gameplay when they channel some of the soothing mist. You can use certain abilities while channeling on that target. New talent, Damnation, instantly inflicts the target with Shadow Word Pain, VT and DP free of cost, 45-second cooldown. Wow, that's huge amount of just dots set up in a single burst. Or Void Torrent no longer pauses your insanity while used, now refreshes the duration of your shadow damage over time on the target while it's channeling. You channel Void Torrent and then just make sure that your dots are refreshed full. Okay, so more play with dots in some way or another. We'll see how strong that's going to be. Tier 50, Dark Ascension has been removed. Legacy of the Void redesigned. Void form no longer has a duration. However, during Void form, your sanity will drain increasingly fast until it reaches 0. Void form ends. Void form increases all spells damage by an additional 5%. Hopefully that won't be the meta ability. Surrender to Madness reduced to a 90-second cooldown. And I think Surrender to Madness might still be bugged on the beta, but this is going to be an interesting ability nonetheless. New talent, Ancient Madness. Entering Void form increases your crit strike chance by 30% for 15 seconds. Reset effects by 2% per second. This is basically a trait, a Azeroth trait being baked into the spec. My first and raw impressions of this, it's good that Blizzard is adding certain talents baseline into the spec, like while during Void form you have 2 charges of Mind Blast, or get an insta-cast blast for Mind Blast in refreshes. It's interesting to see some of the combinations of channel and being able to use abilities while channeling, which might become more of a baseline priest thing. I like some of the changes to some of the talents. I think they're looking interesting. I like how some of the RNG is removed, like with the ghosts, being able to not scale it off of crit, but rather off of abilities that you use while you're dots on the enemy. Speaking about dots, I like how there's a lot more interplay with dots, whether you have abilities that buff dots or abilities that work off of dots, extend dots, apply dots easily. It's going to be a lot easier to throw dots around. So hopefully dots will be more of an important mechanic for Shadow Priest, similar to how for Affliction Warlocks, most of their damage and focus is on damage over time, or at least can be to a certain extent, depending on how you build your character. I do like these changes of the bat. However, I am going to be cautious. I think this needs to be tested before, let's say, that Shadow Priest is fixed. However, I'll always like new class changes. I think they're always exciting. So I cannot wait to jump on the beta whenever servers are up, if they will even come with this update in particular, and test them out for myself. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Let me know what you think about Shadow Priest's changes so far. Cannot wait to test them when beta goes up, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.